What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the TBP podcast, where we talk about all things Houston Texans. Today is April 8th, 2020, episode 2. You guys really enjoyed episode 1. I'm glad to hear all the positive feedback, and we're back with another episode. Last episode, we talked about my thoughts on the Bill O'Brien situation, the Hopkins trade. But today, we'll be talking about the NFL draft, who we should target, my favorite prospects. So let's get into it. The top needs for this draft for the Texans is, one is the hole at wide receiver. I think that's the most important position we have to address immediately when it's our pick at number 40. Especially in a draft that is stacked at the wide receiver position. This is probably one of the best wide receiver classes we've seen in a while. So I don't think we'll have trouble finding a good wide receiver from this draft. We need a defensive tackle, possibly. We just signed a defensive tackle from the Eagles, but it wouldn't hurt to sign a young guy, see what he's got in the tank. And we need an edge rusher because our pressure on the quarterback this past season was declined immensely after the loss of Clowney. J.J. Watt needs help. Merciless was there at the beginning of the year, and then he started to deteriorate off towards the later end of the season. So a young edge rusher would be a good pickup. The cornerback and O-line would probably be at the end of the draft, towards the end, especially with the O-line, because I think the Texans are content with the lineup they have right now with Tunsil, Sharping, Martin, Fulton, and Howard, Titus Howard. I think they're content with that squad. They performed well when they were all healthy together last season, so they may pick up a guard or something, but I don't expect too much for O-line. For corner, it'll probably be in the later round as well. And safety, that's probably a toss-up in the air. I don't believe so, considering we have Deshaun Gibson and Justin Reed, and we just signed the safety from the Browns, Eric Murray, to a pretty expensive contract. And maybe we could pick a running back as well. It's not a Bill O'Brien draft if we don't pick a running back. And we aren't entirely sure how David Johnson in Houston will turn out, but pick up a nice young running back. And I think those are the needs: wide receiver, defensive tackle, edge, cornerback, and O-line. Those are the needs. So when we talk about wide receivers, when we're up at pick 40, we have lots to choose from. So let me pull up the 2020 NFL wide receiver draft class, because this class is stacked with guys. Stacked. You have the top picks: CeeDee Lamb out of Oklahoma, Jerry Jeudy from Alabama, Henry Ruggs from Alabama, Justin Jefferson from LSU, Laviska Shenault from Colorado. And then starting with Shenault from Colorado, I think that's when it comes to our pick, we can pick the rest of the receivers that are left, So, and maybe we could possibly pick Justin Jefferson if he drops that low, but that's a big if, huge if. If Justin Jefferson is on the board, that would be insane. He had 111 receptions, 1,540 yards, and 18 touchdowns, and played in the national championship game with Joe Burrow, who's most definitely going to be the first overall pick in the draft. He would be a huge steal in the draft if he dropped to us. So Justin Jefferson is on the board. We have to take him. But when it comes to our pick and who's available, we got to look at the wide receiver from Clemson, T. Higgins. When it comes to us trying to find a replacement for DeAndre Hopkins, possibly finding the next number one guy at wide receiver, I think T. Higgins is the guy. We have the Clemson connection. Deshaun Watson and T. Higgins, both from Clemson. The Texans love to draft the Clemson guys. Clemson is known to be the wide receiver university with Sammy Watkins, DeAndre Hopkins, Mike Williams. They establish nice wide receivers who have had a good performance in the league. But just T. Higgins, 6'4", 210 pounds. He's a fast and physical wide receiver. Great hands. He would be a nice addition and a good possible replacement for DeAndre Hopkins. This is a guy who I think the Texans should pick up if he's on the board. He's amazing. I'm going to pull up his combine stats. Let me look here. So they compare him to AJ Green. Does it say where his 40 is? Well, anyways. T. Higgins. Big, fast, physical receiver with good hands who can make some plays. That's the guy. If Justin Jefferson doesn't fall to us, T. Higgins is the guy we have to pick up. Some other guys we can pick up is wide receiver Denzel Mims from Baylor. He can stay in Texas. Mims is 6'3", 216. And just like Higgins, physical wide receiver with good hands, fast. He'd be another potential pickup, but he could drop lower than Higgins, or they're probably in the same range of when they could get picked. So Denzel Mims is a guy. Jalen Reagor is another guy out of TCU. He's a good special teamer, especially with punt returns. If the Texans were to get Jalen Reagor, it would probably be for wide receiver and special teams because he's a good special teamer. So that would be another guy to keep an eye on for the Texans. And just watch their film. I'll include some clips in here. But T. Higgins' film especially is really good. I was impressed. And another wide receiver, this is a very underrated wide receiver, I believe. One of the most underrated wide receivers. We can potentially hold off on wide receiver till the way later rounds. If we choose to go that direction, a guy we should pick up is Kendrick Rogers from Texas A&M. Very underrated. He is so talented. Kendrick Rogers. Let me see. I'm trying to pull him up here. Kendrick Rogers, 6'4", 204. Physical wide receiver with great hands. And a game that I would recommend watching to see how good of a guy this dude is, to see how good of a wide receiver this guy is. Watch Texas A&M versus LSU. I believe it was the 2018 season. It was the game where they went into 7 overtimes. And Kendrick Rogers was amazing this game. Amazing. So if we choose to wait, Kendrick Rogers is the guy who I would want to pick up. Very underrated. He would be a steal in the draft. But if once we address the wide receiver, we can go. That's when we can. It's up for grabs, on who we want to pick up next. We could get a defensive tackle even though we picked up one in free agency. And we need an edge, to get pressure on the quarterback because we got absolutely no pressure last year. if we were to get a defensive tackle, a guy that I would want is Texas A&M defensive tackle Justin Madubike. So let me just pull him up real quick. Justin Madubike, 6'3", 304, big defensive tackle who can provide pressure on the quarterback. And his stats for this past season, let me see. His stats, he got 18 solo tackles, 27 assisted, 11.5 tackle for losses, 5.5 sacks, and 1 interception, with 2 passes defended and 1 forced fumble. He wouldn't be a too bad of a pickup. He would be a good pickup for the Texans, I believe. Now for edge, if we choose to go for edge, Josh Uche from Michigan would be a good pickup. He's versatile. He's very versatile, which the Texans like. You know, he can provide pressure. He can drop back into coverage. Whatever the Texans want him to do, he can do it. So I'm going to pull up his stats here. Josh Uche, 21 solo tackles, 12 assisted, 10.5 tackles for losses, 7.5 sacks, with 1 pass defended and 1 fumble recovered with 1 forced fumble. So that's a good pickup right there for the Texans to pick up. Another option for edge is Darrell Taylor from Tennessee. Darrell Taylor, 6'4", 267. Just like Uche, big, fast, can get to the quarterback. Let me pull up his stats here. All right. He had 28 solo tackles, 18 assisted, 10 tackle for losses, 8.5 sacks, 4 passes defended, and 1 forced fumble. So slightly better stats than Josh Uche from Michigan. But you can't go wrong with either. I'm leaning more towards Darrell Taylor, but those two would be good pickups regardless. Now, there was a mock draft where I saw we could potentially get Antoine Winfield, the safety from Minnesota, and I do not think we're going to do that at all, considering we have Justin Reed, Deshaun Gibson, and Eric Murray. Even though Austin Winfield is a really good safety, the downside about him is he's short. I think he's like 5'10", 5'11". So he's a small safety, but he is physical, and he had a great season this past year with Minnesota. But to be honest, I don't think that's going to happen. Now, regarding to the later rounds, that's when we start drafting the running backs, the O-line, the cornerbacks. Those are the guys we'll target in the later rounds. But as for our top picks for wide receiver, we got Justin Jefferson if he drops that low, T. Higgins, Denzel Mims, Jalen Reagor, Kendrick Rogers. We got for defensive tackle Justin Madubike, edge Darrell Taylor, and Josh Uche. So those are some good guys to mention when it comes draft time. And there's the question, and here is the question: if we want the guy we want, should we trade up into the first to get the guy we want? You know, we could possibly trade both of our second rounders. Give me a second. We can possibly trade both of our second rounders to move up into the first round. And if you guys agree with that, you can leave a comment below. See your thoughts on it. I say we don't. We need as much draft picks as we can get, and the wide receiver class is stacked, so there's no need to, trade our picks to move up. And keep our picks. See who we can get out of. See who we can get out of them. And so I believe we shouldn't trade up, but other people may say otherwise. I want to hear your thoughts below, so you can drop them down. But this draft will be different, considering the whole coronavirus scare, the outbreak, and it affects the draft drastically. It will no longer be held in Vegas, where I believe the draft was gonna be held. It will no longer be held there. It'll be done virtually through Zoom calls, and NFL owners are voicing their concerns about the Zoom calls to be hacked and such, and I believe that's a very real possibility, because it's very easy to get into Zoom calls, very easy to hack. So there probably will be some problems come draft night, but I believe as long as the prospects get the call from the team, that everything should go smoothly. But it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Somewhat sad for the prospects. They won't be able to walk the stage, but they'll be at home with their family, so it'll still be a special moment for them. But regarding the draft, I believe that's it. Unless, let me look at the running back draft class real quick. And comment down below which draft prospect you like, who you want the Texans to pick up if I didn't mention them. All right. Early, when it comes to our pick 40, we could have the possibility of getting DeAndre Swift if we choose to go that direction. He's from Georgia. Good running back. He'd be a good pickup for the Texans if we really wanted to go that direction. But, since we got David Johnson, and we need a wide receiver, an edge rushers, and a defensive tackle, I don't think we will go that direction. It will shock me if we go this direction, but DeAndre Swift is an option when it comes to our pick at number 40. J.K. Dobbins from Ohio State. Clyde Edwards-Helaire from LSU. He'll be there when our pick comes. He's not a bad running back. He was with the LSU squad, so. But when it comes to the later rounds, let's see. 5th round, Anthony McFarland, Maryland. Michael Warren, Cincinnati. Benjamin, Arizona State. Lamical Perrine at Florida. We got Boston College, A.J. Dillon, UCLA, Joshua Kelly, Maryland, Javon Leake. Illinois State, James Robinson. Appalachian State, Darrington Evans, TCU, Darius Anderson. Arizona, J.J. Taylor, and Memphis, Patrick Taylor. So, when it comes to running back, it won't be early. So, I don't expect to see guys like DeAndre Swift, Clyde Edwards-Helaire at all. We'll probably see more of the later names that I mentioned that we pick up. And as for corners, let me pull up the corners. Cornerbacks will be mid-round, maybe late rounds. But we have some good options here. Let me see. But when it comes to our pick, Amik Robinson from Louisiana Tech would be nice. AJ Terrell from Clemson. Some nice corners. Bryce Hall from Virginia, but that's pretty early. Troy Pride from Notre Dame. But these are guys that we'll see in the later rounds. But who knows? I've tried to predict who the Texans may target before, and I've been wrong every single time. So the Texans are good at keeping who they want a secret. I almost every year I almost never know who they want. Last year they got Titus Howard with their first rounder, and like many of you, I was completely shocked by this choice because I think there was Cody Ford was still there. Eagles had the draft pick in front of us and snagged Andre Dillard. So that affected us big time. I believe that was our target, our potential target. But for running back, they were really high on Devin Singletary and Travion Williams. They didn't draft them. I don't even think they drafted a running back that draft. They got another tight end. Who knows? We were stacked at tight end, so I don't know why we picked up another one. We got Lonnie Johnson at corner. But those were picks managed under Brian Gain as our GM. With Bill O'Brien having full control, it's going to be interesting to see who he wants, who he likes, and who he wants to pick up. So it'll be interesting to see what guys he has his eye on at wide receiver, edge, running backs. So it'll be interesting. Hopefully the guys I mentioned will be wearing a Texans uniform next this upcoming season. But we'll see. The draft is a few weeks away. Let me look at the calendar actually. When's the NFL draft? Is it April 23rd? 2020 NFL draft. April 23rd through April 25th. So it's not too far away. 2 weeks. It's going to be fun. This time of year is always exciting because I like seeing what new picks we pick up, the new rookies we get. And draft day is always crazy. My favorite draft moment, and I will remember this for a long time. 2017, we traded up to draft. Everyone knows it. Deshaun Watson. Crazy draft, by the way. It was reported that the Deshaun Watson was the guy who the Texans wanted. It was between Mahomes and Watson. O'Brien really liked both, but I think we were sold on Watson more. And then, honestly, whatever QB was available, we were going to pick up. But the Bears traded up to the second, drafted Trubisky immediately. Then the Chiefs traded up, snagged Mahomes. And then the Browns pick was coming, and the Texans couldn't wait. So they traded up, drafted Watson. The rest is history. But that moment right there, that changed my view of the Houston Texans forever. Because I never thought they would draft Deshaun Watson, national championship winner, who played against Alabama twice, a very tough defense. And we drafted this guy, gave him a chance. Now he's probably he'll most definitely surpass Matt Schaub for the best Texan quarterback in franchise history. So that's my favorite draft moment for the Texans. And if we look, and it's interesting to see how this draft will affect the future as well, because if we look at the 2016 draft, we got Will Fuller, Nick Martin, and then everyone else after that is no longer a Texan, because we got Braxton Miller in the third round, We got DJ Reader with our last pick. And some other guys I can't quite remember. I think we got Tyler Irvin. We got rid of him. KJ Dillon, we got rid of him. It's all about picking the right players and see how they turn out. But I think that'll wrap up this episode of the podcast. We're a little bit over 25 minutes, so it's a bit shorter today. But I went over my favorite prospects on who to draft, who we need. And yeah, hope everyone's staying safe still. Everyone's at home, chilling, staying quarantined. And there will be another episode this coming Friday. I'm still planning on what I'm going to go over. Probably my predictions for this upcoming season, but we'll see. But yeah, I guess I'll see you guys later.